Home means to me a place of security, a place of joy, a place of peace. Home needs to be a happy place. So this house was built in 69. At that time, Cindy and George didn't have a house next door. This was just a field out here, and there were cows out there in it. When the little grandkids were here and they were standing up on the sofa looking out the cows out there, I would say, look at the moos. See the moos? How many moos are there? That's how they got to calling me Moo Grandma. I was born right here in Tillamook, 7/7/1938. I'm normally happy and caring. Is that enough words? I'm not sure how my family friends would describe me, but I would think if it was on a good day, they would probably give me a good recommendation. If it wasn't a good day, then I'm not sure what they'd say. I was taught to obey. I was taught to love my family, each member. My brother, which was a pain and anyway, all the time. Our church was just getting into a building program. And so some of the people were giving some property that they had at that time. A friend that lived up the road, the Landises, so they approached us about properties that they had up here, and they would like to sell that to someone and give that money to the church for building a new church out of. So that's how they ended up with this property. We love it up here. We think it's the best place in Tillamook to live. It was my uncle Klaus Wienia, and then Ken Wienia worked with him. My dad was working full-time at the mill, so when he got done working at the mill, which is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then he would come home and do what he could here to help them out. And so Mom had always said that she didn't like living up here without the kids. And I loved it up here. So we got to talking about it and decided that we would buy it from them. So that's what we did. I think about this lately that I remember all the teens coming here and playing cards and loud, and we would just go to bed and hope that everything was together when we got up. But I think those were happy times and really good times. We always had a nice backyard and a tree in it which had a swing, so they played there a lot. And then we had in the attic here, we had a train layout, and so they would play up there a lot, and the neighbor boy and come and play with Randy up there a lot. And of course we were pretty close to the woods, so they liked that. And fishing was one thing that really attracted Randy learned to fish there, so picked up that on full time after a while. When we lived on Nielsen Road, that's when I had Cindy, I think. Mm-hmm. So I would put her in the stroller, dress her up real cute, and then I would walk to town with her. And those were days that I just, really felt the love of, and I was so proud of her. I wanted people to see her, and we would go to church on Sunday night, and then if someone invited us over or something, we would bring the kids home and they'd have to stay here while we went. And so we took them home and said, now don't turn the TV on and watch anything. You have to get to bed. There's school tomorrow. And so okay. So, well, we didn't know it till years later that as soon as we left, they turned the TV back on, and they sat there and watched TV for an hour longer. And then when they heard that we were coming home, or saw that we were coming home, we hurried up and turned it off and ran back to bed. Those were fun times. We had a lot of fun times. Harold was very good at telling stories, Bible stories, and he would say, and they all ran off in their underwear. And they would, of course, the kids thought he was so funny when he told those. Mom and Dad had gone to Holland. My grandparents were Dutch. So anything Dutchy, they were like that. So the clock was one they found. I had a cousin, his wife, that lived in Holland. He was in the service. They were collecting things, to bring back to the States. And they ran into this, Mom and Dad ran into this clock, and Dad said that he wanted that clock. He said it was black from the war. Tore it all down and then brought it home and refinished it and got it running again. So we've had it ever since then. And they called this a tea cart right there. That came from Holland too. And that's another very special one for me. I have an Amish collection up there on the wall, and I bought enough so I would have one for every grandkid. They didn't make them very long, and they're collector's things. So I bought one for each one of the grandkids, and left a note with them saying that someday that they should all pick the one they want, take turns picking up. That's one thing I would cherish. But along with the clock and the tea cart, and my blue Delft, of course, has been special because of it being Dutch. So I have several pieces of that. I don't have any jewelry, this expensive jewelry or anything like some people have, rings, and about all I have is necklaces. And then there's a note written on the back of it, and that was from Harold. I would protect that one. It's not very expensive, I'm sure, but that didn't make any difference. It was how it got to be mine. I came from a family that I had 4 aunts, and they all were great cooks and fun-loving aunts, and laughed and joked and had wonderful, wonderful times in this house and in some of their houses. It seems like now the trend for holidays is to move away from getting together as a family. And I don't want my family to do that. I want them to know that every holiday is special, and they need to take time to celebrate it. If not on that day, another 2 or 3 days later or so. But I think it's important that we stay together, that way. Advice I would have for my grandkids, my great-grandkids, my great-great-grandkids, is obey your mom and daddy, go to church, be involved in serving in the church. I don't know, that's a lot of responsibility, and I have a picture on my wall of each great grandchild, and that's 14, 17, I don't remember how many right now. I'd have to count them up, but I told them, you send me your new school picture this year, and if you do that, that means I'll pray for you every day. If you don't do that, I won't be praying for you. Well, I've been pretty good at getting all of them. I'm most proud of my family. I'm most proud of of my boy. Yeah, he is something else. And my girls are wonderful girls. So, and I thank God every day for them, and that they love Jesus and are faithful to them. I don't want them to remember that I was short and fat. I want them to remember that I always had a good attitude, nearly always, and cheerful. And I don't know, I just want them to be Christian kids, Christian people. Yeah. So I read a lot of books to them, and you know, they about knew them by heart. I took care of kids a lot, grandkids. And Tyler was special, and he loved some of my books. Anything with a tractor in it or something like that, he loved those. And now he has a little boy, so I'll be reading some of these same books to him, and have given him a couple of the books. The girls, Cammie and Amy, we would go for a walk down the road and then up the side road, and there's a big tree there, and there's it looks like a door on the tree, I guess. And so I just told them that's where the squirrels lived, and they would go knock on the door and see if they would answer. And I said, well, they must have gone to school today or something. You know, I don't know where they are. But so it was just an interesting place to make up stories. Tricycle riding, bicycle riding. As the girls got older, some of them learned to drive here. We had four-wheelers, motorcycles, go-karts, everything that had wheels on it and ran, we had. And it was pretty dangerous at sometimes. People would see Tyler out there tearing around on something, and the girls were, yeah. I don't remember ever teaching Amy how to drive. She must have known already. But Cammie, she tried to learn how to ride and how to drive the pickup. And that was quite a joke, because she kept slipping the clutch. So, but anyway, those are just some of the memories that we've wrapped up in this place. Tyler is not the grandchild, even though he might think so. I would never, like I've told you kids 100 times, I don't have a favorite. I love you all the same. And I know you don't think that's possible, but once you have kids, and then if you have to make that decision, which one do you love the most? Which one's your favorite? Well, you'll know what I mean by when I say that, you know, you're all my favorites. We had a fuzzy rug out here. I think that was a lamb's wool or something that we had bought probably when we went to New Zealand. We bought it down there. Anyway, and the kids would fight over that one. And then we'd make popcorn, and they would eat popcorn in here. One thing I remember about the girls is they would love to get behind Papa and comb his hair. He would sit in his rocking chair, and they would be back behind him, and he'd just let them do it. So we had a big alder tree back there, and then we got a float like they use for fishing. In fact, I think we got it in Alaska, and tied that onto this rope, and the kids just had a ball swinging on that. So we had an old garbage truck, and they would park it out there on the road, and then they would climb up on the truck, and then one of us would throw the ball up there high enough that they could grab it, and then they would swing down on it. And that was a lot of fun. So the old dump truck hauled many loads of wood. We decided we should get rid of it. One of the kids wanted it then. Amy decided that she would like to have it. She put it down by the creek and they could play with it there. This was an old city sanitary garbage truck, and it really held a lot of wood. Then many years later, Josh passed away, and so here's the truck down there yet. And so when that happened, then Randy got busy and started clearing things out and working on it. And so they decided to give this dump truck to the charity drive.
The dump truck's gone?
Yeah.
I didn't get to say goodbye.
So they gave it to the charity drive and pulled it out of there so that they could get at it. And then they loaded it up with metal to sell for that. So it's gone. And that was a good way to get rid of it. The uncle that built this house built this. It didn't have this divider in it before. And so we decided if we would put this here, it would divide the dining room from this room. So then I had a place to put my nice things. But these candle holders were in an attic of Harold's mom's in a fire upstairs in the attic. And so they got rescued those, and I ended up with them. But I like the pink glass, the pink things. So, but I wanted to tell you about the other candle holders, and they're somewhat like this. I had a boyfriend that went into the service, into the Marines, and for Christmas he bought me these. These are called Century Crystal. He bought me 2 of these. Each candle holder had 2 holes in it for candles. And anyway, I just kept them. So now they're over at Cindy's. As I said, now these are something that your mother got from her boyfriend. And that, so anyway. The fireplace, the rocks behind it, my mom and dad were rock hunters, and they would go out and hunt these rocks, and then Dad got a saw so he could saw the rocks, and so they made that, and we'd always burned wood in here. Randy helped me get a new wood stove that would burn better, so he got that set up, and it has been a wonderful stove. My doctor said you really shouldn't be doing that anymore because you could fall into the fire. Well, his reasonings were very good, so I decided I better not do it myself. But the girls that have been helping me kept the fire going nearly all the time. They would get up in the middle of the night and put a piece of wood on it. Well, the pictures in the hallway are mostly just our family. Jody when she was a senior, Cindy, senior picture, and up there's Randy's senior picture. Here's my favorite one. This is a joke in this family, let me tell you. So this one was Randy and I when we were little. This was my dad. He had this old pickup, and he was a welder. So he would go up in the woods when they had trouble with their cats or the other equipment. He would go up there and fix it. He was a very intelligent man. Worked in a mill his last few years. And they many times would call him for some information. And this is Harold's family home in Switzerland. And all we had was this picture when we got there. And it was in this little community, and there wasn't, all we had that was that picture. And so we saw this house, and I said, well, you know, I think this is it, because see those windows, they're a little bit higher than those windows. And so we decided to go knock on the door and see. So we knocked on the door, and we said to the lady, would this be that house? And she said, oh, yeah, it is. And so anyway, she invited us in, and it was just wonderful to be, you know, Tammy was with us at that time. And after we got out in the car, she said, oh, that was just great. She said, it just made me so proud of your heritage. This is Randy and Cindy as kids. This is my grandpa and grandma Weena, which were the very best grandpas and grandmas you could ask for. And they took a trip from South Dakota to Oregon in that. And this was our treasure. She has just been a blessing for us. He couldn't have picked anyone any better. He just really has. We really have enjoyed her. Okay, this is one of my favorite grandkids, and the Oftemeyers. And I think they're pretty close to being Swiss too. So, and this was a bunch of the grandkids all got together. And this picture was done by Cammie's mother. And I'd like for her to have that picture when we're ready to get rid of everything. Papa was the CEO of the cheese factory for several years. And he spent many hours in here. This was the closet I was telling you about. And so it has lots of little cars. It has lots of books, very special books. I should be giving some of those away. But they're still having grandkids, so maybe I need to keep them. When Mom and Dad moved here, she had this frame, and I don't know where she got it. She probably bought it at a secondhand store or something. And then she knew what she wanted to do with it. So they cut a hole in the wall about that size. I took it down to Leilani Crowston now. And she did all the background work and then did all the flowers in it. But if you wanted to take it with you, there would still be a hole in the wall. Well, that little can up there is full of marbles that Harold played with when he was a boy. All of my Dutch stuff, nearly all my Dutch stuff came from just shopping and finding it, or my mom a lot of times would give it to me. I was a firm believer that it was my duty to stay home and do the cooking. This house had seen marriages, you know, and there are a lot of fun times here.